been?
I was shopping.
You've been out with Reuben, haven't you? It's all over your face.
Hey, hello.
Oh, yes. We are back from our vacaciones.
Great time.
Yes, and everyone's been resting. Like everyone I talked to, they're going somewhere over the last couple of weeks.
It's been hot.
As well as we've been. You're probably wondering, how long is he going to post videos about the Huffman District? Well, that's because we were out of town. So I shot videos all way beforehand so we can keep launching them. Keep telling you about Dayton, bringing you the voices of Dayton. And yeah, that's what we do. And we're back, and we're talking about things. There's so many things that we could talk about. We've had so many extensive conversations about a veritable booty load full of things that I don't know where to start. I do know where to start, but I don't know where to start. Would you like to know where to start? I know you have some pressing things that we've been chatting about.
I did see an article in Dayton Daily News about construction in Dayton.
Yes.
Going on the rise, and how it's going to be jobs and money, a boost to the economy. And, you know, my opinion when I read things like that, especially when I drive around and see so much wasted space, is, you know, even not just in Dayton, in the whole country, construction's not going to save us. Construction can't be the only jobs. And what are we constructing? I guess it depends on
well,
new development stuff.
I saw
sprawl.
someone mention a study. We talked about it, couldn't find it. I didn't have time to look it up. But essentially that the built space in Montgomery County had increased.
Oh, yeah.
While the actual number of people has decreased.
Decreased and or stayed like a relatively level.
Yeah, and it really, the number of like actual buildings we've built has just like really, really increased. And we've got lots and lots of empty spaces all over. I mean, not just in the city of Dayton. You can go all throughout Kettering and see like blighted, gnarly old like strip malls, Trotwood, Huber Heights, all over really.
Yeah.
Because it's a failed model of community building.
And build and build and build, because that is growth and progress, but that is not. We need to.
But the guys who are building,
they love it.
They love it.
Yeah.
They got jobs.
Right.
You know, they're taking down a union wage for, you know, boom, boom, saw, saw.
Right.
Build all the stuff, which, you know, that supports their families.
Right, I understand.
But at the same time, shouldn't we be, like, trying to, like, repurpose a lot of the stuff we've already got?
I mean, really, we can't. The consensus is in on climate change, and we really need to rethink our use of resources and the efficiency of our lifestyles. You know, Dayton has tons of sprawl, Cincinnati, tons of sprawl. Lots of cities around the country have tons of sprawl, and it's inefficient. It is stressful because it forces people to drive. You're in traffic jams.
Oh,
you
yeah.
hate it. You
like
hate other
going
people.
to like the Beaver Creek or like down the Dayton Mall area. It's just always like the
sprawl,
stress, nightmare, sprawl.
Right, and sprawl leaves urban centers and the immediate surrounding areas in devastation, as we see in Dayton and as we see in lots of other medium-sized cities around the country. And small cities, it's all the same. But we can't keep building further and further. We can't just keep you know, you can't just have a strip mall, an abandoned strip mall, and then like a couple blocks down, build a new strip mall.
Yeah.
You know, shit like that has got to stop. We have to start reusing our spaces and really thinking about more long-term consequences of our forever development and continual growth.
Yeah, no one in Dayton except maybe like 5 or 6 people that I know.
Like it. Like,
Or even number one, like, and I can't find anyone who enjoys like being in the suburbs. They enjoy like the conveniences, but like as far as like this is a good place to be, I just want to like hang out here.
yeah, it's not
It's like
inviting.
no,
that
you
way.
got to go. You go get your stuff, and then you go back into your human cave and you watch your television. And that's kind of like the extent of the community is going to
Isolating.
Meijer, Walmart, or
In your
wherever
car,
else.
and it's
Being in your car,
isolating.
and it's totally uncity centric.
And
Which,
everybody hates to drive. Yes, anybody. They hate driving.
well, a lot of people in America worship driving.
Well, we are forced into it by situations like this. You
Well,
got
don't you think driving equals freedom, and the troops fight for driving freedom, which is driving?
no driving equals fucking oppression, and it's just awful.
But how would you like to have to walk everywhere?
Well,
you couldn't get to
you know what?
Cincinnati. We couldn't go out to dinner.
No.
We could have went to New York City last week.
Look, we were in New York City for 6 days. We didn't
that
drive
car.
at all.
How would we have gotten there?
But you can take there are other means. We have crappy trains. We could have better trains in the
Yes,
country.
we have
could
like
have better
a
public
Bulgarian
transportation.
level like train system.
I mean, we're behind in public
Yeah, we are.
transportation and infrastructure and internet speeds and
Yeah.
all kinds of crap. We really need to get our shit together.
Yeah, our infrastructure in the United States. One thing was we noticed this last year when we came in from Canada.
Toronto.
It's like as soon as you cross the border, it's like, yeah, our infrastructure is like a dirty old crack whore trying to go back and get like some antibiotics at the clinic. It's all patchwork.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no investment in getting off that crack and fixing things like really long term.
Yeah. So, transportation
Yes.
is a huge thing, and that could really make urban living and the immediate surroundings in cities.
What ideas do you have for the Dayton area transportation? Because I know one of the things that's it's always a god-awful mess, combined with the fact that we're in a food desert. And then it takes like,
Right.
where are you going to get something to eat at? Like, I don't know, I'll just drive aimlessly. Maybe it'll be like a
Half an
place that'll pop up. They're like, that sounds good. And you
Or
keep
else
driving
you're so
around.
hungry
And
that
it's
you're
like,
just like,
it's
oh
like
my God, we'll just
fried
eat there.
chicken, taco. It's all fast food. It's really hard to find stuff.
Yeah, I mean, again, we were in New York. We walked everywhere. We could walk 2 blocks, and there's like restaurants.
Because they had population
and
density in the city.
marketplaces.
And our city does not have population density.
Well, that's true, but like we were talking about before, how Dayton promotes itself as this place of, come here, because this is what we want to be. Well, get people to come. Give them an incentive to live in the city, you know.
That reminds me of a story that I'm working on. I'm going to reap a house in Dayton. Do you know what reaping houses is?
I know, but why don't you tell everybody?
Reaping houses in the city of Dayton. Last I knew, there was like 10,000 empty homes in Dayton. I don't know
We have
exactly what the number is. It's a lot.
we
It's
have
hard
a
to keep up with
10%
how
housing
many.
vacancy rate in
Yeah,
Dayton.
it's an enormous amount of
Maybe more than that.
vacant homes. And there's a lot of them that are in pretty good shape. I've been checking out some stuff. Some of the stuff, a little rough. Other stuff, it's got a great foundation and a roof still intact.
Things that could
Mostly
be
you'll be
saved.
dealing with like cosmetic issues. If you don't mind getting on a ladder
And doing some
and
work.
doing some
on a
work.
place.
on a place, you can get a house in the city of Dayton for under $2,000, house and a lot. Basically going through, I'm going to go through it, so we're going to find out all about it. We're going to interview a lady from the city.
Yeah.
It's a 6-month to 2
2
years
years.
worst case scenario program. But there's all these properties that no one's paying property tax on. They're just
Right.
like sitting there.
And
And in
the
like
longer they sit, the harder it's going to be to save
they're
them.
sitting in the abyss, right? These Jake legs aren't paying their taxes on them. They're just letting them rot,
Yeah.
taking write-offs on their taxes, making the city a bad place. There's a part of the business class that's really letting us all down.
Despicable.
You go to the city and say, hey, I want to reap this house, I want to, rehab it. Or, I want to build a garden. There's like you can get lots too.
Empty lots.
For like $500 or $600. And, I want to redo this. And they'll start the process where they tell the tax owner, hey, you have to pay all these taxes. You're behind $20,000 in taxes. A lot of these guys are just, they never pay their taxes.
Right.
I don't know all the particulars of that system and how that actually, they're able to do that.
Yeah.
But they put the house at auction, and if no one wants to bid more than that, which seldom anyone does, you get the house, and they transfer the taxes to the city. The city writes the taxes off, and you've got a urban, in many cases, historic, old, beautiful home for like $2,000 in neighborhoods in the city of Dayton. Listen, you're a rube if you think that Dayton is super scary. Really,
Yeah,
we traveled all over like New York City last week. Jackson Heights, Brooklyn, Harlem. We stayed out of Manhattan, thankfully. Queens.
Yeah.
And Dayton, and if you've been to any big city, Dayton is just nothing. We have our problems in Dayton, but
it's so few and far between.
they're few and far between, and they're random acts between individuals of almost, I forget the exact percentage, it's really high, of either domestic situations or between drug dealers or drug dealer users.
People who know each other somehow.
The money involved with that thing leads to that stuff. But other than that, you're very unlikely to randomly be just killed on the street. Much more likely in many other cities that you would go to and visit and frequent all the time. So,
but they go to the safe places, like we noticed. Lots, the tourists that are hanging out at Times Square or on, 42nd Street, where all the theaters and all the Applebee's
we didn't see any.
So those people will go there and they're
we
not
didn't see any
scared
visitors.
Like, hey, there's Applebee's. No.
Yeah, why would you go to Manhattan?
There's Applebee's.
And get a Chili's in Manhattan and Applebee's in Manhattan unless there's someone hit you with a log upside the head.
Well, that's what we're.
A big television log.
They have told us. They've made it. They've constructed this built environment that is like weird and sheltering for people. And so Americans are very, very sheltered, very isolated from any kind of like real diversity and acceptance of diversity.
Oh, yeah.
And so when you drive somewhere, it's like, oh, I know exactly what that's going to be. I feel safe going there because I know exactly what it's going to taste like. I know exactly what it's going to be like inside or whatever, So I think we're like in this weird.
Yeah, you can really when you leave New York City, and as soon as you get into Jersey, it's really when you start hitting the Midwest because it gets real suburban-y.
Yeah.
And lots of SUVs and Starbucks like in like strip malls and the whole like communal interaction thing
totally wiped out.
Is wiped out. It doesn't matter if you're in Dayton, if you're in
anywhere USA.
Anywhere
except
USA.
For the few major big
major cities where there
LA,
is density of people.
Right, Chicago, New
and
York, Miami.
I say our leaders need to be concentrating on bringing in density. And keep on throwing parties.
And look at others for ideas. I read an article a couple weeks ago. I don't know if I mentioned this on another one of our shows, but there's some big there's like 500,000 mayors or some crazy number of mayors in the world, and a lot of times you look at cities and they seem to try to reinvent the wheel and come up with new and innovative ideas on how to work their city and how to build their city. But why? Why do you have to reinvent the wheel? There have been some cities that have been around for a long-ass time. Look around.
Yeah, we already have the plans
for
great cities.
To see what's happening in other cities.
Yeah.
Again, I talk about urbanized. I know I mentioned that on a previous show, but that goes around and looks at what's happening in cities now who are, focusing either on dealing with a large population that's there or like working to build it in a way that's just efficient. And that's what we need. We don't need to think of brand new ideas. We can look to all the other cities in the world. Google it.
Yeah.
There's so much.
Exactly.
Steal someone's idea and make it yours.
Speaking of that, there's some great
cares?
stuff going on that I'm involved with some people who are involved with Updating. And we're going to be unveiling some public art projects around the Xenia Avenue corridor soon that will blow people's mind.
Awesome.
Just think large mural type stuff, gardens. I can't tell all the details right now, but it's going to be really cool. And there's going to be an infusion of art into the Twin Towers neighborhood. And there's an area that, like I said, an urban pioneer can go into a city, an area like that. If you're so paranoid, get yourself a German Shepherd.
That's right. That's great. I had a dog.
Yeah. I've never had a problem being broken into with a bunch of dogs.
Nope.
Not to say that it can't happen.
I've only had my friends come bang on the door at 4 in.
Yeah.
You know, all whacked out, drunk or whatever, bothering me. And I'm like, you know.
Yeah, that's a much bigger, possible problem. Definitely.
That was a while past. That was in the past.
So then he said it's not going to cut the mustard.
Really?
You know, and that was that.
Let's try a little test. What do you see here?
It's a sandwich. It's a sandwich. It's a sandwich.
I'm sensing a pattern here.